Everybody, I wanted to do something a little bit different. I want to talk about the future of Marvel games and what I would like to see. Because we do have some pretty heavy bangers coming out, like Marvel's Wolverine and all that, especially after Marvel's Spider-Man 2, which was amazing. I personally was just thinking, what's next? Like, what could they do, how they could do it, and all that jazz, and personally what I would like to see from each game and all that. Because I have some high hopes for the next few Marvel games that'll be coming out, because, as a fan, I really hope they can do it justice, because after Avengers... so bad. Sorry, I just had to get that one out of my system. I really hope they can work with teams that actually are willing to make games that are good and not sacrifice quality for quantity. And personally, you could make a multiplayer game, but just don't do it like Avengers did. Please, dear God. Never again. Especially what happened with Gotham Knights. So with Cliffhanger Games eventually working on a Black Panther game, and Motive Studios doing an Iron Man game, and I believe an Black Panther and Captain America game in the works as well by EA. I wanted to talk about my hopes and some ideas that I have for the games that have been announced and some games that haven't been announced that I think would be pretty cool. So yeah. First on the chopping block is the Iron Man game. Oh boy, where do I begin? Let me begin with saying that I really hope they can do an Iron Man game justice. The one positive that I can say about Avengers was how the controls for Iron Man were somewhat decent, especially the flying controls. It really beats the movie tie-in game. Because those controls were ass. I'm really hoping that with this game they can really up the ante and really do it justice, because Iron Man is a character that is very near and dear to a lot of people, especially because of the Avengers movies and the Marvel Cinematic Universe with Robert Downey Jr. So, doing an Iron Man game, you gotta do it justice. And with controls, I think, personally, Avengers did it somewhat decently. I just think that it could have been done better. It really could have. I don't mind having, multiple weapons and stuff like that, but you just really have to really be careful, and especially with boss fights. Iron Man has a lot of different villains. I don't know what ones they will use. I personally would love to see a fight with the living laser. If you don't know who that is, it's one of my personal favorite underrated Iron Man villains. They could do a lot of different stuff, pull some villains. I think that, honestly, I would love to see them use ones that we haven't seen, because, with the Iron Man movies, they did use a few villains, but a lot of Iron Man's villains, some of them are in suits and all that, so it's, very hard to really do villains for him. And also, villains that he has to, I wouldn't say villains, but, people that he has to fight that aren't villains. And that's very, very tricky. So, basically normal thugs and stuff like that. That's very hard to do, and I hope they can manage it. I can't really come up with anything on that front. So, yeah. Besides that, I want to move on to Wolverine. Because this is one of the games I'm most looking forward to by Insomniac. Wolverine is a character I adore. He's, been a big part of, my life for the longest time with the Hugh Jackman movies, and I know that a lot of you probably love Wolverine. So he's a character that hasn't gotten the best treatment in the games department. I think one that was minorly decent was his movie tie-in game, which was surprisingly better than the movie itself. Which, how they managed to pull that one off is beyond me. And it's quite interesting. So, yeah. I will say in the villains department, Wolverine has such a rich and unique villain background. So with the game maybe setting place in Madripoor, I do believe there's so much they can do for the villains department and all that. Personally, with Insomniac's track record, especially with Doc Ock, they could really do an Omega Red boss fight justice. Because I don't think we've ever really had to fight him before. So it would be pretty amazing to see, like, a lot of these, you know, A-listers, like Sabretooth and Omega Red and a few others. And it might lead into making an X-Men game in the future, but I don't know if that could be as easy. So, who knows? The next on the list is going to be Cliffhanger Games' Black Panther game. Alright, let me be real with you guys. I love Black Panther, but besides the movies that were done, like, I was never a big Black Panther person. Like, I never read the comics. I didn't know too much about the character. I knew with some of the villains. The Black Panther DLC for freaking Marvel's Avengers was decent, but it was just like, God, it was okay. It was, I wouldn't say it's awful, but it was just like a major letdown for me. It was like, it was kind of just like, why? It was like, basically, why? If I'm being real, the only unique part of the DLC that I thought was minorly decent was how they handled and did Claw. Because I personally liked how they handled him. Just being honest, I liked how they transformed him into his classic design. It was pretty cool and minorly decent, if I'm being honest. So, if I'm being honest, I think they could do it better than Avengers did, because I would love to see a villain that hasn't really gotten used much, which is Manape. Personally, they could do him as a boss and it would be pretty unique, and you would have to really switch some stuff around, and doing a Black Panther game would be, it's gonna be awesome seeing that. Let's see. Honestly, besides Daredevil, which would be kind of obvious, and you can have fun with that, a Punisher game, which would be pretty cool, but it would be a shooter, so a Fantastic Four game would be awesome, but you would have to do it like Guardians. And speaking of, Guardians of the Galaxy deserves a sequel. That game was amazing. Here's the thing. Guardians actually deserves a sequel because, unlike Avengers, it actually tried to do some unique stuff and it was a little bit different. Now, I think some elements gameplay-wise needed some tweaking, but it was a solid game overall. Personally, I have a lot of high hopes for some future Marvel games. Knowing that Marvel Spider-Man 3 might happen and all that stuff, I really hope that with the future of Marvel games, they really, step it up. And, like, we get to see some characters and have some great stories. Like, yes, multiplayer could be nice, but the problem with doing multiplayer is just how it's always handled. It's like, it's always just, it's never handled good, personally, and I think that's been the one problem. I think dual play multiplayer would be nice, have somebody, or a little bit dual play online, be in a party with somebody, you can, like, partially invite them, so similar to the one good element that I like, which is, from Gotham Knights. Like, something like that would be pretty cool. I think that would be unique, and I think that could work. But there's a lot of... I really hope to see a lot more, for Marvel games wise. Like, there's a lot that I want to see. I think there's, like, with Wolverine coming up, which I hope to see that soon, and all that. I would love to see a Doctor Strange game. I would love to see a Hulk game, take cues from Ultimate Destruction. Thor. I think Thor in Marvel's Avengers was decent. I think it just needed some work, but, it wasn't that bad. A Captain America game would be amazing. A pure Captain America game, I mean. I think, just in general, I think the one downside is like, they just need to let go of, like, certain elements. I think you gotta really take cues and make sure you're making a game that makes you feel like the hero you're playing and has a great story and really know what it is that you want to achieve. Because if you basically fall down the ladder, because here's the thing, if the game looks mediocre at best, like, that's what really... Here's the thing, with Guardians, like, honestly, I thought it was just gonna be like Avengers, and boy was I fucking wrong. And I was so glad I was, because I'll say gameplay-wise, it's not terrible. It's decent. It does take some cues from, like, the Turtles games. I think there was, like, a Turtles game that, you can control the other characters. Something like that. I think that was, like, it was pretty cool to play as Star-Lord, and you can control the other Guardians and have them help you. The story was amazing. And, like, the music was amazing. I think the characters, the jokes were funny. It was amazing. I think if more games, like, here's the difference between that and Avengers. Avengers, I had hopes that it would be good. I played, like the campaign, and I was just like, and then we got a lot, and the more I saw and the more I played, I was just like, at this point, I'm done. like everybody else, I was done. I didn't like it. I didn't care for it. I was somewhat excited at first, but then, like, just gradually I was like, I'm done here. This is... How could you screw this up so badly? And it's so infuriating, because it could have been so great. And I think the fact that it was rushed was the main problem I had. I think the story was predictable, yes, but it did kind of do some unique things, and I think, honestly, I don't know. This isn't a review for that game, but these newer games need to take cues from the good ones and how to do them, and actually have fans of the character to work on them. I think, story-wise, that could work in basically to its favor. And just, in general, give you an idea of where to go. Because it's not impossible to do multiplayer games. It's not impossible to do, like, an online multiplayer Avengers game. It's not impossible. The problem is it would have probably taken years. And I'm saying that with due respect, because honestly, if it was me at the helm making that Avengers game, the first thing I probably would have done is we will be spending a lot of time cooking. Because it felt rushed, even the mediocrity and stuff. That's where these games, the newer games, so like Wolverine, Black Panther, Iron Man, and whatever comes out after, they need to take cues and figure out, like, how and what to do, in a certain extent. Because that's the key to success. not just, you know, having the game feel too much like the MCU. And I think Guardians kind of standed out where it had some familiarity with the MCU Guardians, but it felt unique enough in style where it felt more like the comics. It felt like that. And I think with Marvel Spider-Man 1, Miles, and 2, same thing. And I think you have to do that in a certain extent. You have to make sure your gameplay is solid, your combat's solid, the enemy variety is solid, and the boss variety is solid, and the story is good. And I think for the future of the different Marvel games, that's what they need to focus on. Take cues from the comics, take cues from movies, take cues from other games, build a foundation, and see what works. And I think even with Spider-Man, they took cues from what worked, like the original PS2 swinging, what didn't work, and like they put in villains and characters and had stuff that felt unique to their own universe and stuff like that, kind of like the Arkham games. And that is the key here. And what I hope to see is, like, I don't mind single-player games. I would love to play a multiplayer, you know, game with my friends that is Marvel. I would love to play a superhero game like that. It would be great. The problem is that it has to be good. It has to be good. I think the unique thing is, like with Ghost of Tsushima, the perfect example. That online multiplayer is actually pretty good because you have 4 characters. They're all unique from one another, but they take the founding elements of the main character from the game, gameplay-wise, and it works. So, like, for instance, if you did that with, like, a Fantastic Four game, that would work. It would be amazing, because each character would feel different, and it would be like a team effort. You could do two characters working together, or one, and that's just the thing. You have to have quality over quantity. And I hope with these future Marvel games, that's what we get.